What's up, you guys? Today we're talking about GY6 brakes. When I say GY6 brakes, I mean the rear. Well, when you're doing a GY6 Ruckus, you buy a hub. That's the most common way of doing it, but we are going to be talking about disc brakes. This is super fancy. Anything larger than 150cc, like 171, all the way up to 232, you definitely want to consider going with disc brakes. Not only that, it looks good too. Let me show you what I mean. So here I have a 190cc that I just built for a Honda Ruckus, and traditionally you would have drum brakes or shoes right here, and then you would have a drum hub. This is just your standard hub that almost everybody runs when you first get a GY6 150 in. It goes on just like that, and then you've got your shoes in there, your brake shoes, and scooter's cruising along, and there's a little arm that sticks up here, and then you've got your rear brake cable that runs through, and you pull the cable, the pads expand, and it stops the scooter. Well, the problem is drum brakes are already kind of weak. On top of that, you have a cable pulling it. The brake power is only as strong as the cables being pulled. Not only that, cables have a lot of stretching going on. So then you would go with a GY6 Honda Ruckus rear disc brake kit. This is a kit that I put together. So I flip it over. It comes with the rotor. You know, it's got titanium mounting bolts for the rotor. Super trick. Full billet with the lug nuts and everything to mount to your wheel. If you notice, there's some holes left over. Those are for different size wheels, and we supply the bolts for that so that it can make it into studs, and you can use those if you need to, which rarely are used, but they're there. And then we've got all the mounting hardware. Like this, for instance, we'll have this guy. If you notice a little hole there, that just mounts back there, just like that. That goes down there. We'll have to drill a hole. I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a second. Super easy. And then the other thing is, if you notice right here, that's from your old drum shoes. When I slide this sucker down, it's going to hit. So we definitely got to get that figured out. We just grind it down. It's pretty easy. A little bit of fabrication involved, but it's what you call Ruckus life. And then it comes with the rear cable, of course, and the banjo fitting to mount that down. So that's the kit. Now you're going to need some extra stuff. You're going to need master cylinder for sure. We've got a couple different styles here. Here's the Brembo left master cylinder. You want to match it with your front brake. Then you got the traditional Adeline. So we've got a few different ones on the website. You'll have to choose which one you want. We sell them in pairs too. This is just, you know, singles. But this is the kit. You know, it comes all this right here. And then you have the option, of course, to change the color of your caliper, which we've got like a gray, silverish gray, and then we've got a black. There's a few different options on the website in the drop down. You can head over and check it out. So I was running my 232cc with drum brakes for like a year. If I really squeezed the lever, it would skid just a little bit. Once I put these disc brakes on, I knew all along I needed to do the disc brakes, but I kept holding off, and there wasn't really a kit out there, and it was a little bit confusing. That's kind of why I came up with this kit. But once I put it in there, you squeeze that thing down, and the rear brakes will lock up super easy. I think it's about 5 times the stopping power. That's just a guesstimate, but super stopping power, that's for sure. And combined with the front disc brakes makes for a you wouldn't need anything better than that. Let me show you how this goes in. It's super easy to install. There is a little bit of minor fabrication that you need to know how to do, but let me show you how. So this is kind of what your setup's going to look like. You'll have this unit, and then you'll have your drum brakes on there. Pull those outward, they'll pop right off. And then you've got your little pin. I just put this in here roughly. So this is where your cable attaches. Pull your cable off. There's a bolt right here. Unscrew that, and you'll give it a little wiggle, and it will slide off just like this. This is the arm. Once you do that, this guy will slide right out, and that brings you to the way that this looks. Now, I'm going to grab the grinder. We're going to grind this sucker off, and let me show you exactly how to do that. So I'm going to take this little cutting wheel, Harbor Freight Special Just gonna turn it on, start cutting down there. You can use whatever you want. You can even use just a handsaw, but what the goal is, we need to cut this little tab off for the brake. Because all GY6s are a little different, you want to slide your hub on. Should slide on real easy, just like that. And you want to see if there's anything catching. In this case, there definitely is something catching. So we need to figure out what that is that's catching, and then grind that down. Like I said, there's a little bit of fabricating because the GY6 was not supposed to be designed as a rear disc brake motor. Like this, at least. So as you can see, right in that red area right there, that is what I need to grind down. It's actually hitting right there. This pin actually has a O-ring on it so that your gearbox oil doesn't leak. You don't want to grind this pin completely off, just a portion of it. Those bolts, these bolts are what's hitting. So each GY6 engine is going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, that's what you're going to need to do. I'm going to be using a grinder for this one, a little bit different tip, because that's probably the perfect setup to get that red area cut down. So let's do that. Okay, so I've got this ground down. Now I need to match it up here because they have the same shape. So we're clearing down here with our little titanium rotor bolts. Those aren't hitting at the bottom, and we just need to clear out the red there to match it up. Like I said, every GY6 is a little bit different. The way that you're going to be able to tell is popping this sucker on and then turning it, and then you'll look to the side here and find out what's hitting, and then grind that area. So here's the grind job. Got her all ground down there and up here. So I even ground down just a little bit up here. It's all like as you need it. There's not like a bulletproof way of doing this. So let me slide this on here. Now you can spin it over. No problem. It's not hitting whatsoever. There is one thing though. If I look down the edge right here, let me pull this off and show you what I mean. I'm going to have a bolt that goes in here. So if I grab my little mounting guy like that, so then I grab the bolt that is supplied, I'll send it through. You notice it sticks out a little bit. So I slide this sucker on, and then I pull it in and I give it a spin. Oh, it hits. What do? So pull that off of there. We need to countersink it. Got this multi-step drill bit. We're going to drill it down a little bit, and then this bolt will countersink. So let's do that really quick. So I'm just going to go just a little bit. We'll do that one step. Just like that. Let's try it. Yep. We'll go just a little bit more because it's almost flat. Maybe a half a notch. Just like that. So I'll hold that down. Yeah, see that there is completely flush. So that's the way we're going to run it. No hitting. Perfect. Okay, as you can see that little collar there? That collar is going to go through the back side of here. So going back there, and then see these there and there. There's a little angle cut on there, so that lays on perfectly, just like that. So all we need to do, we want to make sure that it's held down in such a way that our little hole is going to be perfect. So I'm going to mark it with a marker, and we're going to drill a tiny little pilot hole to make sure we're lined up. The ultimate hole is going to be 11/32. That's the drill bit that we're going to end up with in the end. I'm holding this down. I actually have a little scribe instead of a marker. since it's easier to fit in there. If you look there, you can see the little scribe mark that I made. So I'm going to drill a small little pilot hole right in there. So I pulled the motor off the stand because I couldn't get, it was kind of in the way. So I'm just going to mark it with a punch. Just like that. That way I know it's centered. And let's get this thing started. So here's the hole, little tiny pilot hole, but it's centered perfectly. And I did go at a little bit of an angle just because of the way it is on the other side. But the pilot hole should help me get it perfectly straight. Like I said, this is an 11/32 drill bit. All right, let's try it. Send it through the back. Perfect. Now, this is a nylon nut. So we're just going to crank it down. Let me just get these started. Send that one through. And we got the nylon nut right on the back. All right, so what we want is the edges nice and flush right up there. And I'm going to crank this sucker down, and then we'll try it, make sure the hub's not rubbing on anything, everything's solid. Then we'll put that brake caliper on. All right, 5mm Allen, 13mm nut. You don't have to use Loctite since it has the nylon nut on it. Now look how smooth that is with the countersunk. See that? Perfect. All right, let's try this hub now. Go on there real nice and easy. The final thing is going to be to crank this hub down with a nut on it. So let's just try to, right now everything looks good. I'm going to get a nut, let's crank that sucker down, and that'll verify 100% we're not hitting it all. You don't have to do Loctite on here or anything because it's got the locking nut if you have a proper nut, at least the proper axle nut. This is going to be 75 foot-pounds. The one thing that you will need to use Loctite on is the mounting bolts for the caliper. I use blue Loctite. Slide it down, just get it started by hand. It's nice and snug. We'll give this thing a little spin before we really crank them down. Everything seems good. If it sounds a little gear noisy, it's probably because there's no gear oil in this, since this is a brand new engine and it's being shipped. So, but yeah, it's turning over just fine. One thing I'll mention, sometimes these calipers require little washers between, like between the caliper and the mount. So don't be alarmed if you have to do that. So now let's crank this sucker down. We'll go with 15 foot-pounds. That's an average. I'm not going to put the hose on because we'll do that when we get the bike, set it in the bike. But you'll have your banjo fitting go right here. It's like that. And you notice there's two copper washers. When you put it on, copper washer goes on top, and then one on the bottom, and pinches between. And then you run this hose up to your master cylinder, and then you have to bleed it and everything. We've got another video for that. Let's look at that sucker with a wheel on, huh? Oh yeah! Now that is awesome. Look at that. Perfect. It looks sweet. It performs sweet. It is sweet. Keep in mind this disc brake setup will only work with 12 and 13-inch wheels. It will not work with 10-inch wheels. Just a heads up. Alright you guys, so that was the rolling wrench GY6 Honda Ruckus rear disc brake kit. If you want one of those, I'll put the link down in the description. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button 2 times. Hit subscribe, and don't forget to head over to Instagram. I post about every single day on there. I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you in the next video.